Cool, hey everyone. So welcome to the first again in a series of kind of weekly hangouts slash tutorials slash live streams that we're going to be hosting here in the OWL Live Discord. Also going to be streamed to YouTube, so it can be a kind of permanent resource. But basically what we're going to be doing is checking out the 360 camera and all the awesome capabilities and interesting workflows that you can do with it. So the live streams are going to be every Wednesday. It's going to be a kind of hangout from 4 p.m. till 5 p.m. British summertime. The first half of the live stream is going to be an interesting workflow, and then it's going to be open to open Q&A for the second half, where that won't be streamed, so people can feel more free to kind of talk freely in the Discord. So for this first session, we're just going to run through just getting a simple render out using the 360 camera, and just showing you, how to simply do that. Then we'll dive into more technical kind of stuff, technical techniques later on in later live streams. So yeah, I hope you like this series. As I say, we'll be streaming every Wednesday, and you're free to jump in, ask any questions freely. Cool. So yeah, this first technique, let's just do a start to finish using the 360 cam. I'm going to leave this here because I was using this for a thumbnail. But yeah, you can see I'm in this kind of awesome Dark Ruins level. It's made by Megascans, and it's free on the marketplace to check out. Awesome bit of level creation here. There's also a great video breakdown of how they did it, which is great. So let's make a cool render in this scene. So I'll go to the place actors first off and type OWL 360. We've got the OWL 360 camera. So dropping this in the scene, we can see the exposure is way blown out to start with. That's fine, we can just set the exposure down. We'll call it like minus 2.5 by the looks of it. That looks pretty good. We can always tweak this later on. We'll save that. So what I like to do first is just set a render target for this. So you can see I've got render targets that are in use here, but we can create a new one up here. And go OWL underscore, RT underscore 360. OWL 362. So RT is just a prefix for render target. So that's just sort of the Unreal naming convention. So now we've got a whole 360 view active. We can see that we get a drop in FPS when we're viewing this 360 view. That's because we're doing a whole calculation of 6 cameras, looking in every direction at the same time. So it's kind of expected that you'll get low FPS during this preview, but it's great to just be able to see this whenever you want. So we can pause this render target, and then we get our full performance back. So what we can do is right click on this and pilot. We can see that we get the full 360 view in here. If we unpause this, we can kind of scrub around, frame a shot pretty nicely at sort of 10, 11 FPS. And the ability to frame these 360 shots with this real-time preview of exactly what you're seeing in the scene is pretty amazing. So let's just tweak the exposure down a little bit more, maybe minus 3. Yeah, that's looking a bit more like the level. So this real-time render target preview is amazing, and what we can also do is double click the render target, and we have the render target in its own little box here. And what this is really nice for is kind of inspecting a bit closer the kind of details of this. You can use a scroll wheel and right click to move around and zoom. We can see that we've got some visible seams here. This is just because 360 view is made up of 6 faces, and kind of what's looking up is doing a different kind of screen space calculation to what's looking forwards. But that's fine, we can fix that with our face blend here. So this is just a value that blends the 6 faces together. Instead of just a harsh line, you get a blend. And you can see there that it's totally fixed this seam. Let's double check that in the render target, zooming in. Yeah, we've got no visible seam there now, so that's great. This face blend, I'd recommend keeping it around 5 if possible. If you really need to go above it, you can, but it might just bloat the render times a little bit because it's actually just rendering more pixels in order to do this blend. So that's awesome. What we can also do, if we want to pause rendering, but still kind of move around as the camera, we can go down to preview and we can turn off this preview output in viewport. So this way we can now just fly around as the camera, just using the front face of the kind of 6 faces that make up the 360 render. So I like to use this one for sequencing, just kind of pilot this. So let's make a sequence. So we can go cinematics level sequence, and I'll do LS for level sequence, and then we'll go 365. Perhaps put an underscore there. Cool. And then we can add our actor to sequence 360 actor, 360 cam. You can also search that here, but basically, as you probably know, if you've got it selected in the outliner, then it will be visible as this actor to sequence. So yeah, let's just keyframe this as our first position. In the transform, set a keyframe. And go to the end here, scrub along a bit. Maybe just end real low by these rocks here. Keyframe that. And then, you know, we got a simple sequence here. And then obviously what's really great about the kind of preview is that we can see the full 360 view. By unpausing the render target, we can see the full 360 view of our timeline whenever we want. So this, you know, just makes previewing incredibly easy, incredibly useful. You can see just what's going on. You can also send this render target out via NDI to like a headset for real-time VR previewing of this stuff, so you can really get a sense of, is my height correct? Am I far enough away from things? It really takes out the whole difficulty of grey boxing, re-rendering stuff all the time. We can just real-time preview this stuff, which is great. So, you know, we've got simple sequence here. That's really good. And we're previewing it. That's great. So I'm going to pause the render target again. We can choose from different output types, which again, you can see the change immediately. Here's Dome Master. Here's Simple Cube Map. Here's 180 at Rectangular. Tiny Planet, also very cool. Tiny World. So, you know, awesome output types to play with. I'm going to see a regular equirectangular render here. And yeah, going to pause this render target. We've got the face blend. That's kind of the only parameter we want to set from the details panel here. Everything else we got here is integrated into Movie Render Queue. So we just do a normal Movie Render Queue render. Go to the config here. We're going to turn off the regular deferred renderer. We're going to turn on our OWL 360, 180, 360 rendering. Here's where we can set a higher resolution if we want. So I might want like a 4K output for a preview. And honestly, for now, we don't want to touch anything else. I'm going to turn off include alpha, but essentially it's taking the map type, the face blend settings, and a lot of these other settings, which we'll go into in future videos. It's taking all of that from the details panel. So we're just setting the resolution in Movie Render Queue. Here's some other cool rendering stuff we can get into for high resolution renders, but just for now, we're going to do just regular render. So I'm going to output this to just the movie renders folder of this project. I'm going to set a frame range of 10. So hit accept, hit render. And while it's doing that, which really won't be too long, I'm just going to find the project in my outliner. There we go, it's already done. So I found the project here. Now I'm going to go saved, movie renders, and we've got those 10 frames outputted. So 4K, that outputted ridiculously quickly. And we've now got the sequence that we can play back at nice full speed. So that is literally just all it takes to get a render going. Nice and easy, nicely integrated into Unreal. And you can see very nice and performant using Unreal's amazing speedy rendering, but for 360. So yeah, I hope this helps as a just initial how to get going with the 360 camera. As I say, every Wednesday we're going to be hanging out and sharing interesting new techniques and ways to optimize and get really amazing renders out of Unreal Engine. So yeah, thanks a lot. Hope to see you on one of the Wednesday Hangouts. Cheers.